This is our 8th project with Robert, and I got an email from him in mid-February saying, okay, we got the next one's going, and it's a top secret project, and nobody knows about it, but it's Sin City, and you guys have to do this makeup on Marv. So I was delighted at the challenge and delighted at the opportunity to create Marv and to create Yellow Bastard and design Hartigan's makeup and Jackie Boy's. And the idea always was to try to capture the spirit of Frank's drawings. And we really used Frank's drawings as our initial makeup designs. So we did a scan of Mickey's head, and we created 5 different prosthetic looks because we weren't exactly sure. We had 3 weeks to build the makeup for the first segment. What sort of turned the light on for me was Frank did a drawing of Marv's profile, and you see his forehead and his nose, and then nose cuts in, but if you continue drawing a semicircle, his chin literally is in line with the semicircle. So he's like, this is the way it works. And he pulls out a piece of paper and he does a quick sketch. And he sketches Marv's profile and he draws a little semicircle and he goes, that's classic Marv. And I looked at it and went, great, all right, now I know what you want. So we built out his chin, we accentuated his nose in this area, you know, the bridge of his nose. And that was the one we ended up going with.
You might say I've been working my way up the food chain.
So Frank really knows these people intimately. So we really had the luxury of designing the characters and going to Frank and saying, what's most important about this? And he would say with the Marv, it was this. With Hartigan, it was the scar. And we designed the scar. He was really specific about it. That's what we all benefit by having Frank on set, is because Frank can say, this is what is important to these stories.
Well, this is my favorite part, guys. The only thing worse than this is the nose.
Once we got the makeup worked out, it was, I'll tell you, Mickey brought it to life.
Goldie.
I was stunned at how they were able to translate drawings into reality. Not just to make someone resemble my drawings, but the way they were able to do it in such a way that people could act right through it.
But we did the makeup in a way that it looks believable. And because there's so much desaturation in black and white, it helps hide seams. And you can get away with a lot more than you can in color, so it sells better. And so you really can't tell, well, where does the actor's face begin and end, and where's the prosthetics?
My worst nightmare, of course, would have been Marv. It looked like a Klingon. A guy with a big forehead and a gigantic head, who couldn't really communicate much. Instead, I got a version of Mickey that was so believable that when I saw him with the prosthetic off after a couple of weeks of shooting, I had trouble recognizing him. He looked wrong. Each of the 3 Sin Cities has a monster, and Greg and his crowd, they have their hands all over each of the monsters.
With Benicio, that was one of the first times I can ever remember where an actor came in for a head cast and looked at the prosthetics and said, I want to look more like the guy in the book. I think I need more. And I said, listen, let's square off your chin a little bit. Let's give you a longer, thinner, more Roman nose, and those 2 pieces in conjunction with your hair down. I said, that will make you look more like Jackie Boy. And he said, great. So we literally built prosthetics because the actor said, I want to look as much like this character in the book as I can.
Well, I love the makeup on Benicio to turn him into this character. I mean, one of the things is that they're actually just literally sculpting the characters so they look like the characters that are drawn. So it's not Benicio, it's Jackie Boy, all right?
You can really, like, throw curveballs at them. You know, like, hey, we want smoke coming out of my throat. Well, we said that at midnight the day before. We shot the scene, you know, at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the morning when we started. The rig was already there, and they're on their toes all the time.
And he looks so good in the makeup that I forget. It's not that I forget that he's Benicio, I forget that Benicio doesn't look like that.
We developed a sort of a unique technique of using fluorescent activated makeup on top of the scars and within the blood, so that when they shot things black and white and they would key a fluorescent light, they could then use the information from the glow of the blood or the scars, and it would kick. So when you see the movie, the blood isn't going to be red in a couple of the segments. It's going to actually glow like it's white, as if it was drawn in a comic book panel.
Recognize my voice, Hardigan? You recognize my voice, you piece of shit cop?
The most ghastly by far and away is that yellow bastard. And his portrait of this mutant narcissist, I think is genuinely terrifying.
We created a variety of like 4 or 5 different full-size makeup busts. So he picked the design that he liked. We got our actor, it was Nick Stahl. We had 8 days to do a full head prosthetic, which was a whole bald head, cheek pieces, nose, forehead, ears, and then once we glued all that on, then we flocked real thin beard stubble and real thin hair on the makeup.
He's just this like hideous creature, and he's covered in prosthetics. I mean, it's kind of this sort of, you know, gritty urban kind of myth that he's sort of recreated by science, by his father, you know, and he's got these like horrible side effects.
A little old for my taste, but I can forgive that just this once.
The other challenge was because in that particular episode, he's the only thing that's in color. In each segment, there's one color that we sort of is saturated into the black and white. On Marv, it's the red of Goldie's dress. And then in Yellow Bastard, the only thing that we see color is his face and hands and ultimately later his blood. So we did test after test of different colors to paint the makeup so that we would be able to key off of it and get the exact sort of sickly yellow mustard color that the character is in Frank's book. So we ended up literally painting him blue, and then we did a highlight and shadow, and they keyed off the blue and turn it yellow in post-production. So when you see the movie, everything will be black and white except for the Yellow Bastard character.
Sucker.
Nick Stahl's performance absolutely brought that character to life. And when he would arch his shoulders and push his stomach out, he literally looked like the drawings in the book. It was astounding.
You'll cry and beg. You'll scream.
I don't know how he did what he did under all that stuff. But again, that's part of K&B's magic, is that they were able to make him look so much like a horrifying drawing.
We've been unbelievably blessed in this movie. Between Mickey and Benicio and Nick, those guys all brought those characters to life. You can only do so much when you glue rubber to somebody's head.
Ugly cow, you'll scream.
I think that what's going to ultimately happen is people are going to see this movie and they're going to realize that Robert, he would have never done this movie if he hadn't done it faithfully to the book exactly. And it has allowed the prosthetic stuff to really play a really prominent role, and I'm delighted.